like the streets are part of God's sanctification process. Like, so like, you know, so I always talk to my church, like, you know, we'll have a mission like, hey, we want to go spread the gospel to the streets and everything else. I'm also looking for the streets to spread the gospel to me because it actually, you know, like being in proximity to people's struggles, their hurt and everything else, it keeps me human.
You got to tell the story, Doc.
Being a pastor and a church planter in the urban context usually means that you have one foot in the church and another foot in the streets. It usually means that you are a pastor to more than just the people who are on your church membership roll, but you're actually a pastor to the community. And if there's a brother who I think does that well, serves his community well, loves people in his city well, it's my brother, Jay Harris. Jay is a fashion icon, I would say. Jay is a father. He's a husband. He's the pastor of the Ville Church in Jacksonville. He's also a board member of the EVAC Movement up in Jacksonville as well. But more than anything, I think he's just a person who cares deeply about the people in his community and the people who God has given him over to shepherd. Jay is going to spend some time today telling us the story of how he got into ministry, what things are important to ministry or in ministry from him, and how he has had this balance between the church and the streets, and how his calling to the neighborhood, to the block, to the streets, to the urban community has kept him balanced as he's tried to serve. So I hope you enjoyed this listen. Thank you for listening to us as we tell these stories, and stay tuned. All right, y'all. Man, I'm in here with the OG, the real one.
Come on.
The man with 1,000 stories and 100 kids.
Straight up.
Pastor Jay Harris is on the Tell the Story Doc podcast. Actually, the first guest on the Tell the Story Doc podcast. We're expanding. We're moving into not just telling the story of me church planting, but telling the story of other church planters. And Jay is a real one. He's a guy who I've seen for the last few years, and he's helped me tremendously in my life. And we just exchange stories. Like, so yeah. Since we exchange stories all the time, man, I wanted other people to hear your story. Right. And, you know, the purpose for Tell the Story Doc is so that other church planters and leaders have an opportunity to see what it's like to be a church planter, especially in the urban field, to be a Black church planter, a Black pastor. And a lot of us who we're going to be interviewing this year have a similar background. So I wanted people to hear about your story, man. So first, man, tell people who you are, where you from, all that stuff.
Yeah. First of all, it's an honor to be here. You know what I mean? So I'm just happy to be kicking it with you like we always do, whatever stuff, whatever, and to be the first one on this platform. You know what I'm saying? So put that in the history books or whatever. So my name is Jay Harris. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm from Brick City, Dirty Jersey, Newark, New Jersey. You already know what it is. So I live in Jacksonville, man. I run a church there, lead a church there called the Ville Church. I used to own a clothing brand called Straight and Narrow. I'm currently launching an NFT. I got to do a shameless plug real quick.
Yeah, look at that one. Do the plug.
Currently, you see the hoodie. Currently launching the NFT generative collection, 10,000 pieces. It's called DreamCrazyJits is the name of it. Very much birthed out of Jacksonville, Florida. It's being done by a NFT organization called Black Pearl in collaboration with EVAC, which is a nonprofit that started several years ago with some at-risk youth in Jacksonville, Florida.
That's fine.
And we don't like using the word at-risk. We say at hope. And so
there we go.
So that's something that I do or whatever. And leading the church is my primary thing. But even more primary than that is, my wife and kids or whatever. And so my wife Alana and I have our 11th child. Yeah, I did say 11.
11?
Yeah, on the way right now, whatever.
Are we going for the 12 tribes?
Yeah, I'm getting old, my G. I think I'm going to fall back, man. Like, I just want my wife back, bro. I just want to get through a cup of coffee.
Jacob was pretty old when he was having kids.
Yeah, man. I can't even get through a cup of coffee with my wife, bro. I need a break. So I think I'm going to chill after this week. I love it. I'm excited, though. Don't get me twisted, though. I love it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
I dig it, man. Yeah. Tell them, hey, you mentioned Dream Crazy, but man, tell them more about, I don't know who's going to be watching this, so they might not even know what DreamCrazyJits is. What is that? Tell them about the name, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, most definitely. So Back in it's been about 5 or 6 years or whatever. But a couple of years ago, I started volunteering inside of a at a local high school with a teacher named Amy Donofrio, and Amy was actually a member of my church, and so she got put over this leadership class. She's white female, and she was like, "Yo, Jay, I don't know why they picked me to do this, but I need a brother to come help with this joint." So I was like, "All right." This thing just kind of, a lot of the kids, we couldn't get them to talk. They's from different neighborhoods, so it was beef and all of this stuff. And we started getting them to tell their stories, and they started connecting through telling their stories, like we doing on this podcast. Man, stories are powerful. And we did this thing where we were like, yo, because we wanted to be youth led, and we are like, yo, what does it look like to dream crazy? And we had this board we called the Dream Crazy list, and we started writing down like what y'all want to do. They's like, yo, we want to go meet President Obama. We want to go to the White House. We want to go to Morehouse. You know what I'm saying? And over the years, bro, we've met the president. We've met with the president's financial advisors, in the White House without the president there. They sponsored a bill that we did. We've been to Harvard several times. We were authors in the Harvard Educational Review, quarterly review that they do. Good Morning America, TED Talks.
You were just in LA?
Yeah, just in LA at the LA Art Show launching this thing. Senator John Lewis, which is like one of my favorite ones, sitting there with Senator John Lewis holding these iconic pictures we've seen, telling you the play-by-play, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so just amazing stuff. It's been an amazing journey. And so we kind of took that and we ended up in LA because we kept getting this call from this movie producer who was like, yo, y'all story's insane. We flew over to LA, ended up meeting with his friends. There's executives from Nike there, from the music industry, all kind of people, whatever, with crazy power. And they was just like, yo, we should really do an NFT collection. And that's what DreamCrazyJits is. We named it that because, like I said, we started off with this Dream Crazy board, and we're like, how do we get other youth to actually start dreaming? And that's what really is the core idea of the NFT.
And if you're not from Florida, the word jit means
young people. It's just youth. You know what I'm saying?
Jitterbug.
Like, straight up. Like that's like, we call everybody Jits. So we was like we wanted, it's like you look at even the style, and when you like the collection is 10,000 different NFTs or whatever and stuff. And so right now you can go to DreamCrazyJits.com and you can we got our pre-sale list up, so you can jump on that joint. We just was on Twitter talking to Baron Davis or whatever. He hit us the other day.
Like, I saw that.
Yeah, you saw that? Yeah, he hit us. He's like, yo, this joint is lit. Like, who did this? He hit Will I Am. So we got a lot of backing of people that's really, really back, like really loving the project. And we didn't scratch the surface or whatever. So I don't know if you in the NFT space, but jump on. And I really want to make sure we educate a lot of Black and brown people, because I don't want us on the tail end of this marketplace. The world is going to be doing this just like we're doing the internet right now. It's going to eventually take over, and I really want to help educate with what we're doing as well. So DreamCrazyJits.com, y'all check that out.
So what's crazy to me about all of this is like when people talk about planters, pastors, urban leaders, I don't think we think about this space, which is crazy because this is a brand new space that's wide open. I was just listening to a podcast actually with Vlad TV. I shouldn't have dropped his name, but drop it, Vlad TV, and he was talking about how he jumped on YouTube in 2008.
Yeah.
And he did it because he saw that it was a wide open field that nobody was jumping into.
Yeah.
And then Country Wayne, the comedian, was talking about like the reason why he doesn't cuss in comedy is because he saw that nobody was doing clean comedy.
Yeah.
So it was a wide open field.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of the same way. Like, I mean, I know you're an entrepreneur, you think through things entrepreneurially, but you see this wide open field, this NFT space, and you're actually bringing the nonprofit sector into this NFT space, and you making it fit the urban context. And I feel like a lot of people who are, dealing with the urban context, they're not forward thinkers. Like it always feel like urban leaders are trying to catch up and not like actually ahead of the whole movement, man. So I think it's dope that you're a part of that whole thing.
Man. What's crazy is that like, I think it's so funny because I end up in all of these spaces in these rooms with these people, but I've mostly ended up in them serving people. Like, when I started working with the kids or whatever, Amy Donofrio, the teacher, first thing she told me was like, yo, don't even come to the classroom unless you come in for life. Like, I
Yeah.
was like, I just want to come serve a little bit. Like, it's like, nah, there ain't these
No
kids get
part-time.
abandoned all the time or
Yeah.
whatever. She's like, there's no part. Like, so for me, it was like and I don't like commitments. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it was like okay, I'm actually going to leave some of my ambitions and make this be my ambition
Yeah.
to serve these kids and be consistent. And what's crazy in the middle of that, and it took me all of these places. Like, bro, I mean, I about fell out. Like, I done met Jay-Z, everybody you can think of. I about fell out when I met President Obama. I'm gonna just keep it real. I was just like, I couldn't believe it. But like, and a lot of it was the brilliance of these young men that we were working with. Like, they had a power, and when we helped platform their voice and serve them, when we got them to give commentary on how they felt about what was going on in their own city, how they were grieving with their friends and brothers and siblings getting murdered, the more they talked, the more bigger things got. And so I say all that to say is that sometimes we're out of certain spaces because we think we have nothing to bring to it. But like, we have a gold mine sitting here in the urban context, peculiarly the heart, the minds, the struggle. It's beautiful. And if we could elevate and lift the voices or whatever, man, they have so much to contribute. I mean, I'm sitting with these kids. We didn't talk to people in Brazil. We didn't talk to people in Iraq that have just called and said, hey, can y'all talk to us about how to navigate between youth and law enforcement? And they just like, yo, you want to talk to us from Iraq? They're like, yeah, can you get on a Zoom?
And these are not kids, you know, I just want to be clear. These are not kids coming from the suburbs and moving into an urban context. This is all they know. This is their space.
Yeah.
Which, man, I want to give a shout out to Amy because like she gave the right what's the word for it?
She fought for their voices to be heard and for them to be dignified, even in the educational space. And she lost a lot for it at times and endured, I mean, abuse that's just unspeakable whatever at times for you know, standing with Black and brown kids or whatever. Just
but even the warning that she gave you, like, yo, don't come into this space unless you're willing to stay.
Yeah.
Which I've seen that to be a theme. Like even in the ministry, I've been able to do in the last few years, and I know a lot of your story. Like, man, I feel like that's something that that's a warning that we have to be willing to give to people that I think sometimes we don't because it comes off unchristian or like we're not loving our brothers. Yeah. But like, man, when you're in this urban context, you are a protector of your brothers and sisters that are out here, right? Yeah. And even though she's not from that space, she's committed to that space, and she's able to give you that warning, and you live up to that.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like our narrative with the youth and the kids that we've served, man, it's had rocky points. The heartbreak is unspeakable that you endured. The joyful things are amazing also, but it comes with so much, and it's not about coddling. It's not about being always there for every single thing, but it is about a very long story. I think I will be 70 years old, and all of these young men that I've dealt with will be standing at my funeral one day, 80, not, well, I ain't gonna say 70, when I'm 125.
Yeah, let's add them years up.
My bag. When I decide to check out or whatever and stuff, they're gonna be there or whatever. And still, like with them, they still call me to this day. We may not talk for months, but if something hit the fan, they and that's the commitment. That's what they know. They like, if I'm ever down and out, I can call Mr. J or whatever. He's gonna show up or whatever. Like, I just left out of seeing a lawyer about one of my kids that caught a charge for something and whatnot. It was his fault. It was a foolish decision. But I'm there, me and Amy, there with the lawyer and the mom, trying to help him navigate the best circumstance he can to make sure he gets a fair shake in court when he faces being responsible for what he did. But at the same time, I done made so many mistakes. Yeah. And we don't need his life railroaded. So just being able, people are like, what do I do? I'm like, just show up in the room. Yeah. Watch in the room, make sure these lawyers don't run game on them. Like, help them navigate stuff, you know?
Do you think the average pastor has to deal with that type of thing? I know it's kind of hard to say, but
I think there's some pastors that most definitely do. I think, and I'm just kind of, I don't want to generalize it because I'm definitely not a special case at all, but I think some of them edit out some of the hardship and try not to have to navigate it or whatever.
Which is okay. That's part of the reason why we here, right? Because we trying to tell the story, but like, there's no need to edit that out because like these are the realest parts of how you serve people.
Yeah.
Right. So like, I think it would bless more people to know that, man, this is how we serve. This is what our everyday life, or maybe not every day, but this isn't something that's shocking to us. This is something that, like, I think when we're walking into the urban context, or I don't even look at it as walking in because I feel like we've kind of been in it, you know, in a sense. But these are things you got to prepare your heart for. These are things that are like normative.
You know, I'll say this right here because I think a lot of people miss this. For the church, like the streets are part of God's sanctification process. Like, so like, you know, so I always talk to my church, like, you know, we'll have a mission like, hey, we want to go spread the gospel to the streets and everything else. I'm also looking for the streets to spread the gospel to me because it actually, you know, like being in proximity to people's struggles, their hurt and everything else, it keeps me human. Yeah. And so, you know, one of the things people, they be like, yo, Pastor Jay, you keep it mad real. Like, and I'm like, there's nothing else for me to keep it because I'm aware how much blood is hitting the ground out here and how much real struggles and how many people are dealing with identity issues, how many people are heartbroken. They're like, I don't got time to walk around and try to be like a hero. I don't feel like I'm out here winning. Yeah. I'm just doing the best I can to serve in it and be used by God where I can. But like, it's teaching me a ton all the time. It's helping me calm down my arrogance and shut my mouth and humbly go, you know, I was up last night, 3 a.m. praying just because my heart is overwhelmed with sadness or whatever, because there's so much tragedy around me waiting, you know, that, you know, I'm like, God, I need help. I can't respond to all of it and whatnot, but like, it's sanctifying me. Yeah. You know, it's sanctifying me.
You said something really good in that whole thought of the streets being able to sanctify us and some interesting, you know, holy, I won't even say holy in that sense, but like some majestically holy way that we're unaware of. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because there have been times where I think probably both of us have had stuff going on in our lives, things that we're thinking about, things that we're dealing with. And then we come into these spaces and there's somebody who's dealing with way more and they got more hope. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you be like, yeah, man, this person might not even have a gospel. Straight up. You know, but or maybe they have it, but they don't present it in the way that we present it. Let's say it like that. Yeah. Because I think I don't want to play into this fallacy that there are people out here on the streets that don't have the gospel. A lot of these people know the gospel. They have it deep down in them. It's just fighting through a lot of the things that are placed on top of them to get to a place where they can live this thing out fully. You know? Up. Straight up, bro. Listen, I was just in the park not too long ago with, and the park was just like full of a lot of homeless people. And I didn't even announce that I was a pastor or whatever. I just jumped out with my son or whatever with a bunch of food, gave everybody food. And I was going to leave. I wasn't even going to pray for people or nothing like that, whatever, because we were laughing, talking, and I didn't feel like playing that card. I just wanted to be with them and be with them in the middle of a situation. Cat realized I was a pastor or whatever. He's like, bro, I'm some pastor or whatever up the street. He said, yo, can you lay hands for me? Then everybody starts coming. Then I'm like, yo, homie. He's like, he's ready to walk off when I'm going to pray for other people. I'm like, no, bro, give to them what I just gave to you. Yeah. And he's like, bro, like I'm out here messed up and all that. I'm like, no, homie, you like the tax collector in the temple beating on his chest like, Lord, have mercy on me, who Jesus says he's the one that goes home justified and whatnot. So like, I'm like, you missing believing the gospel. You more so, like he's focused on his sin and why he shouldn't be able to pray. But like that text is like, nah, B, like your heart is actually pure even in the midst of the struggle. Paul is saying the same thing when he's beating on his chest going, wretched man that I am, who gonna deliver me? Yeah. And he goes, thanks to Jesus, all in one breath. He is acknowledging that he's like, God, I need you to come conquer this wretchedness in me. And he goes, his repentance goes straight to a thanks. Not like I'm stuck, but thank you. Yeah. And bro, that joint is, the streets need that, bro. Yeah. The streets need that, but the streets often have that joint better than us in the church. Yeah. Because we like the Pharisee in the temple going, thank you, Lord. I'm not like this dirty tax collector over here running our resume off to Jesus thinking we're good.
And actually, Jesus is like, nah, actually that tax collector beating on his chest, asking for mercy is closer to my heart.
I've had way more people ask me outside of the church to pray for them, to lay hands on them, to share their life with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just telling you earlier, I had a girl come in, she's like, I ain't talked to a pastor in over a decade.
Yeah.
You know, I've had more of that happen with people who are not in church, but they have it deep down in there, right?
Yeah.
Than the people who come on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
And I love the people who come on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
But it's just something about that raw, that raw presentation of like, yo, this is who I am. This is, you know, I'm aware of my sin. You know what I mean? I'm fighting hard to like change that. Yeah. And I need help. You know, and that's one thing that I think we miss a lot is like, we're like afraid to admit that we need help.
You know, the church is in a weird transition, but that thing that's a gap between that person out in the streets, and you just said it, like sometimes you can't even get church people who are faithful there every week. They won't even walk up and ask for prayer.
Yeah.
And there's so much stuff that needs to be, like, I know you. And we talk about Jesus all day. The gospel is just as juicy and delicious as it's ever been. Mm-hmm. The word of God hasn't gotten funny at all. But I'm most definitely looking at the organization of church in a very, very way where, like, in a way where I'm like, I'm deconstructing some things. Mm. I'm grieving it also as well because
they're gonna get you for
they're gonna jump on it. But I'm gonna use it. There's some things that I'm like, I am actually hoping God tears completely down, because that is a tragedy, what we're talking about, that there's people who actually long for the Lord, but don't feel they can come near to the church. And we can sit and defend ourselves all day long or whatever, but like we also need to be responsible for why there's a stumbling block from, you know, in their perception or whatever and stuff, and how we've contributed to it. Yeah. So if we're gonna practice what we preach repentance, and we preach that repentance bears fruit. So like, what is it that the American church needs to actually repent about, whatever? And then like, we young black men that have been devoted to serving our communities in the gospel, and we can't even get a conversation on the table with most white pastors we know. And that's about the most dehumanizing thing that I can, you know, like even experience or begin to describe. So like, there are things I'm hoping for God to tear down, but I'm not reckless and bitter with it in the middle of it neither, because like there's things that I see happening in the church that most people don't know. Like we pay for $10,000 wheelchairs for people and getting people wheelchair accessible cars or whatever and stuff. Like I see the miracle of even some Christians that I would consider to be really racist and have some really blind spots, but that are really, really generous. So it's mind-boggling to me at times, and it makes me kind of like, okay, watch your bitterness and be patient. Yeah. Be patient with it and let the Lord play this thing out. But like, I got a problem with somebody being in the street and feeling like they can't come in here. Yeah. So like, I'm always two-timing. I'm 1 foot in the building, 1 foot in the street, because I love both of them, and I believe that sanctification looks like pulling them together.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, and people might be mad about this, if the church don't come around the corner as far as where I stand, then I'm just going to be in the street, in the park with people preaching the gospel, because I can take that gospel anywhere I go, and I don't have to take a structure or organization. We the church, because Jesus is in our heart. Yeah. So, you know, or let them get on the comments with that one or whatever. Man, but I'm fighting for the church to the bitter end. Like, so that's not I
think that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
The hardest part is, I think a lot of us are fighting for the church. Yeah. A lot of us do believe in the church. We're constantly defending the church to people who we interact with out in the streets.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, you know, that one family member that you know is crazy.
Yeah.
That everybody talk about how crazy they are, and you defend them, but you like, bro, it's kind of crazy now. You know, like, I just wish he would like, you know, like, and.
But the best way to help him, at some point, you get to the point where like, the best thing to do is actually like to just tell the truth. Like, he is crazy. Yeah. We need to pray for him. Then people are like, all right, now we could talk, because you was talking crazy when you were saying that he wasn't crazy.
Exactly.
We start thinking you was crazy.
Exactly.
Everybody knows the church is crazy right now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, period. Like, we got our heads in the sand. I mean, you look at most contexts, they're just waiting for the lead pastors to die, and then they dropping like dominoes.
Hey, you know what? I I really like actually the fact that people think the church is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, I'm hearing all this conversation about people leaving the church. There's this mass exodus that's happening, that people are deconstructing. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly think it's a good thing because I would rather have 30 people, 20 people, 12 people who I know would die for this, you know, and they're like, yo, I am a true believer in Yeshua, and I'm going to follow the way, than to have 100 people and a quarter of them are not real Christians anyway.
Yeah.
Another quarter of them is like, you know, siding with political parties or supremacy things and all of that type stuff. Yeah. And then you have a little remnant of people who are really trying to walk it out. I think the biggest thing that we're kind of focused on, though, is how can we get some of the people who are true Christians and are trying to follow the way of Yahweh and Yeshua to like come in the doors. Yeah. And one thing, the reason why I got you on here, and this is like the title that I wrote down, is because of what you said earlier. I got one foot in and one foot out. But if it goes down, I'm gonna have to pick the side where the people are. Yeah. You know, the people that God called me to. And I think that's how God works. Like I think I can't find a passage where Jesus is like, get everybody to go to the temple. Yeah. Like there's not one. Yeah. Even Paul, like I can't find the passage where he's like promoting that. Yeah. You know, even the church, like the home church, the house church or whatever. I can't find the passage where he's like, yo, get as many people in your house as possible. Yeah, yeah. That passage is not there. Yeah. But there are passages about going to find the lost sheep, going to find the lost coin, going to, you know, there are people out there that God has saved and is saving. Yeah. And he wants us to go out and represent him well in front of those people. Yeah. And I think when we are in the urban context, we get to see that in a way that is different. I'm not saying that other people don't see it, but I think we see it in a way that's way different than a lot of other contexts, because I think the habit of the church has been, let's get as many people in here as possible. Yeah. Let's just keep building the building bigger so that we can fit more people. Oh yeah, let's put a skating rink in here. Let's put a bowling alley. Yeah. You know, let's get a Starbucks in here so that nobody ever want to leave. And yet you are not doing one of the things that God called you to do the most, which is go and make disciples. Yeah, yeah. You know, and one of the things or whatever, which I think I agree with you, and I'm gonna add this to it. That plan works in some contexts. Like in some more affluent context, it works or whatever. And I think with our experience being, you know, connected to like bigger church organizations and everything else, when we, you know, it's like being in the king's palace, but you feeling like Nehemiah. You like, yo, I'm up inside your palace and all that, but yo, the walls in my neighborhood is broke down. Yeah. Like people that look like me are walking up the street and like they outside on the front porch because they can't pay the light bill. Yeah. And so, and we in here and you're just building more and more and more and more. And I'm grieving. And so I'm like, I love what you're preaching. I don't really vibe with what you're doing. It's a fun escape for me. It is entertaining. The lights and that, you know, action is dope. But like my homie over here, they don't got no lights. Right. And they don't have this good news we talking about. And so you end up kind of torn in these worlds. And it's almost like, I don't know if you'll be helpful coming over to my context anyway. So if this works for you and your children, do what you do. But over here, I need for it to look like this. Yeah. And a lot of times what we have found, people are like, no, you can't do it like that. I'm like, but you don't know anything about what works in the street over here or in this context or with this culture at all or whatever. And you feel like you almost have like these invisible handcuffs to like dream. Like you're like, from a theological standpoint, no, you can't do this. You can't walk like this. You need to fix it like this. And I'm like, but you don't even know these streets over here. How you know what to do over here? That kind of thing. And I'm exhausted with that kind of thing. I'm exhausted with that, you know? I'm with you. So Pastor Jay was spitting gems and knowledge for us in part one of the interview. We've decided to split the interview into two so that we'll have some time to just chew on it and get everything that's in it. If you like what you saw in part one, We want y'all to subscribe, add some likes to this. Maybe if we get 50 likes, we'll drop part 2 on Wednesday of next week. And also follow the Tell the Story pages on Instagram and also Spotify, Apple, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Go ahead and follow those pages and we'll drop part 2 next week. Pastor Jay is going to tell us more about the Ville Church up in Jacksonville, his discipleship process, and how he moved into ministry. Go ahead and lock in with us. We'll see y'all next week.